Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican. I'm running for your mayor. The first thing we're going to do is get the RCMP into Abbotsford. Long overdue. We're going to go after the organized crime. We're going to go after these land deals that were collaborated and racketeered and scammed behind Abbotsford's back with Abbotsford City Council to slate. What was taking place in our city is unacceptable by all leaders and by all residents. But a mob boss went in, Henry Braun. So I want to give you a little story here before I begin. Henry Braun couldn't buy enough people in the city to do his dirty work. So he pressured Bruce Banman out, he pressured Mo Gill out, and he pressured the people out that were honest, that were fearing the law. So he could go in and grab the city of Abbotsford under the official community plan and line up job sites that would benefit him and his partners, Ron Funkadiverse. He knew that he could get Abbotsford First, that was all Ross Siemens' team, to change schedules without going back to public hearings. For example, Ron Funkadiverse, the old newspaper site, he changed it from 200 to 455 to benefit Ron Funk, what would benefit him. Land deals, the Mackenzie Bog, and everything. Henry believed as long as he had Vicky Hopes and Abbotsford News to shield from the general public, it couldn't get out. And what he could use Mike DeYoung and Ed Fast for, and the rest, his buddies at the Abbotsford APD, under the police uniform, running roughshod. Till it went off the rails of Darren Braun in front of his dad, Erwin Braun, and the collaborating and Darren Braun showing that city councils that were in Henry's back and front pocket up at his house, and Henry changing schedule and bullying people. Abbotsford residents and myself went to the best man that could look at that and went, what the heck is going on? The RCMP omission. And today, Abbotsford stands a different way, and you can see it coming. Henry then needed to load Ross Siemens to make sure all the jobs that he has, as you see Ross running them. You can see how bad it is. The big headed leader of the mob boss, Henry Braun, didn't stand in front of the police building he scammed for $71 million and took a picture. They distanced themselves because Abbotsford police were in organized crime. Them detectives knew what they were doing for Henry when Olenhoff said drop the videos and lawsuit. When Abbotsford police knew that Henry got in that car and tried to end my life in broad daylight, then dumped his Alexis car and fled. The chief of Abbotsford Police, Mike Sir, if I show you him, right here, believed that that company in his position would cover Henry's hit and run, his attempted murder, let him finish his schedule so he could load Ross, and in we come. It's organized crime. That is why I'm sure we need, and Abbotsford has to have, the RCMP. Abbotsford police are outraged with me. They've been threatening me from day one. You can see all this stuff. The RCMP have always been there for me and Abbotsford residents. Make sure it's documented at everything they move. The sympathy of Abbotsford police, gangs. It was owned by Henry Braun. Today, I'm down in the industrial area in Abbotsford. I want to show you something. I want you to see. This is P&R Old Workyard. Now, if I'm not too mistaken, my memory, I don't got dementia that far. This is what Darren Braun said his dad owned, P&R Railroad. His dad was the man that was building SkyTrain and all this. When Henry first became the mayor, his goal was his greed to set up plans and start lobbying. And this is why he wanted Mike to get the MP, and he backed Mike DeYoung and watched him sink. This is what Henry did in his first term. It was Tyler Olson that wrote this article, and I want to show you because I kept it from Darren Braun. This is SkyTrain. He wanted to lobby SkyTrain from Surrey through Langley to everything, and then set up his people that he knew to get the job through the federal and provincial government. Now, I'm going to tell you as mayor, I showed you the first thing I'm going to do is waive small businesses license for the first year to get you up and running. I showed you I'm going to lower your taxes. I'm going to go in and we're going to go hard. We're going to cut them taxes on Abbotsford residents. We're going to bring economic drivers that want a building, Abbotsford, that Henry blocked. We'll look at the Augustine billionaire that was blocked because Henry wanted Rob Funk to have his sales and Cooper's Farm. We're going to bring economic drivers in that'll lower your taxes, and we're going to go hard. But I want Henry to hear this, Henry. I want you to think about it all night because you couldn't own me. I am going to lobby as mayor for SkyTrain. We'll get light rail from Abbotsford to Mission, from Mission to connect to Langley. Connecting all the cities fast. It'll bring tourism to Abbotsford, out here to the airport. It'll bring all the when the berry festivals are here and everything else that takes place in Abbotsford. It'll also help you in the traffic, relieve some of that stuff on the freeway, but we'll make sure that P&R's company, Henry's friends and his buddies, can't have any harm in it. As I push forward for Henry's criminal charges on his attempted murder, and I push down hard, Henry won't be able to own me, and he'll never get his hands on me. Henry Brown crossed the lines on Abbotsford residents. He abused Abbotsford seniors. He took advantage of Abbotsford City. He set up an elite ring with Ed Fast, Mike DeYoung, and he used the Abbotsford police like they were his military to Deller and Brown open the doors. I knew having Henry's son in front of me and listening and knowing everything that his dad was working on, I could go to the best there was that ever served this country, that fight for the weak, the vulnerable, victims and everything, and that is the RCMP. We went over to the Mission RCMP and we opened the can of whoop-ass. I stand on the world stage, and I want to make this clear. I stand on the world stage as a free man and not a dead person, thanks to the RCMP. Targeted by Abbotsford police, not constantly, you saw that. The task force after me, you saw that. Henry trying to kill me, you saw that. You saw Vicky Hopes block me through the whole newspaper to help Henry. You saw Greg Toes trying to bribe me, the Chamber of Commerce, so he could load Ross. You saw that. I stand for my community, and I'm sure George Ferguson would. And I saw what happened to Councillor Mogel when Henry couldn't own him, how he started blackjacking him to get him out. He wanted Abbotsford City for the hundreds of millions. The problem is, Henry's doing the soft shoe shuffle now. Watts, the new police chief, has to go in and say to Henry, how many people are you going to pull down in political office in high levels, Henry, that are tied to you? I believe a lot. That is why Henry had to ditch effort and try to get Mike DeYoung in as a MP. You saw that coming off the rails when Mike DeYoung did not get approved by the federal Conservatives. You saw it when Kevin Falcon distanced himself from Mike DeYoung. You saw it when Ed Fast was getting his ass kicked, because I met with MPs out of Ottawa on our houses and on our threats, and you could see it, and I felt it already. The distance was happening, and I made it clear when John Rustad came into their houses. Henry was using the Abbotsford police to muscle and threaten. There's not a one officer can be trusted. I have great respect. I made it clear for officers like Nix and like Kern and Kaminsky, but they worked for a shithole company that didn't take it serious. And they figured, well, we'll stand on stage on Global and we'll talk about gangs and drunk drivers and gangs, and look at us. They stole $71 million for a new police building. I made it clear. But as your mayor, we're going to go after these. I'm interviewing people to run for council. You want to fight for your community. You want to give your community a voice back. You want to make sure transparency, and you can go into that city and little Swiffer-Swaffer deals ain't being met. And these seniors that worked all their lives have a chance to say this is what's happening. And shit-old garbage people like the lackey Dave Lowens doing what he did. To Ross Siemens, Ross, I'm after the full weight of the law. Let me rephrase these statements to Abbotsford Police. The men and women that worked there, and Colin Watts, an Abbotsford judge, said to me, knowing it was coming off the rails, Mr. Pelican, no one's above the law. No one can use the law and no one can bend it. And he said, Mr. Pelican, before you leave this door, let me explain that. No one thinks of the end, they only think of the beginning. So when Henry said, here's some money, Vicky Hopes, here's some this, can you cover it? You didn't think of the end. Vicky Hopes figured that newspaper would shell it, and when I saw that they were blocking from the community, from Canadians, from the law, and from politicians. Thanks to the RCMP, I took to social media and I stand on the world stage to make sure the law comes into Abbotsford, but above all, to make sure the RCMP come into Abbotsford and help Abbotsford residents. I'm live, Abbotsford, British Columbia.